When I was young, I used to think there was something slightly wrong with enjoying quiet more than noise. At school, at parties, even in everyday conversations, it often seemed that the people who spoke first, laughed loudest, and filled every silence were the ones who were most admired. The rest of us learned, slowly and subtly, that being energetic was good, being bold was better, and being quiet was something to explain. So many people grow up with the feeling that their natural pace is somehow not enough. If they like reading alone, thinking before speaking, or spending time with one or two close friends instead of a crowd, they start to wonder whether they are missing an essential part of life. But what if the problem is not quiet people? What if the problem is a culture that mistakes volume for confidence, speed for intelligence, and sociability for value? Today I want to talk about the hidden cost of that misunderstanding. Because when we fail to appreciate introversion, we do not just make some people uncomfortable. We waste talent, silence insight, and overlook forms of strength the world urgently needs. To understand this clearly, we need to make an important distinction. Introversion is not the same as shyness. Shyness is often connected to fear, especially fear of being judged. Introversion, by contrast, is more about energy and stimulation. Some people feel most alive in busy rooms, lively discussions, and constant social contact. Others do their best thinking, feel their strongest focus, and access their clearest emotions in calmer environments. That difference is not a flaw to be corrected. It is a natural variation in temperament. Yet our society often treats one end of that spectrum as the standard. From a young age, children are praised for being outgoing, encouraged to perform enthusiasm, and gently pushed away from solitude, as if enjoying one's own thoughts were a warning sign. Adults face the same pressure in different forms. Speak up more, network harder, be more visible, sell yourself better. But a person who pauses before answering may be reflecting, not hesitating. A person who prefers fewer words may be choosing them carefully. A person who avoids the spotlight may still have the clearest vision in the room. Quiet does not mean empty. Very often it means depth. This misunderstanding becomes more serious when it shapes our institutions. Look at many classrooms today. Students are often expected to work in groups, brainstorm constantly, share ideas quickly, and show engagement in highly visible ways. Collaboration absolutely has value, but it is treated so often as the highest form of learning that reflection can start to look like withdrawal. A child who likes to work alone may be seen as distant. A student who does not dominate discussion may be assumed to lack confidence or preparation. Yet some of the best learning happens in silence. Reading carefully, thinking independently, struggling privately with a difficult idea, and reaching an insight without immediate social input. Not every mind works best in public. The same is true in workplaces. Open-plan offices, endless meetings, and a culture of constant availability can create an environment where visibility is rewarded more than thoughtfulness. People are interrupted, overstimulated, and left with too little room for concentration. We say we want creativity, but we design environments that make deep thinking difficult. We say we want good judgment, but we often promote those who appear most comfortable speaking rather than those who have considered the problem most carefully. This matters because introverts contribute something deeply valuable to human progress. Many of the qualities associated with quiet personalities are not glamorous, but they are essential: careful observation, sustained concentration, sensitivity to nuance, deep listening, and the ability to work patiently without applause. These qualities often lead to better questions, not just louder answers. In leadership, they can produce steadiness instead of performance. In friendship, they often bring loyalty and attention. In scholarship, design, writing, science, and invention, they can make the difference between a quick reaction and a meaningful breakthrough. The world often celebrates the polished speaker, the charismatic manager, the high-energy visionary. But some of the most effective people are not driven by the pleasure of being noticed. They are driven by conviction, responsibility, curiosity, or craft. They speak when they have something to say, not when they wish to occupy the air. That kind of contribution can be easy to miss at first because it is not always theatrical. But when you look closely at teams, institutions, and communities that thrive over time, you often find people whose influence is quiet yet decisive. They hold things together. They think clearly under pressure. They make other people better. History and everyday life both show us that quiet people can shape the world in powerful ways. We often imagine leadership as commanding presence, powerful speeches, and forceful personalities. But there is another kind of leadership, one grounded in moral seriousness rather than personal display. Some people step forward not because they enjoy attention, but because they believe something must be done. That difference matters. There is a special credibility in the voice of someone who does not seek the stage for its own sake. People trust them because their focus seems to be the cause, not the performance. We can all recognize this type when we encounter it. The teacher whose calm presence changes lives, the colleague who rarely interrupts but always improves the discussion, the community figure who listens more than they speak yet carries immense influence. These people do not dominate the room, but they alter it. They show that leadership is not always about projection. Sometimes it is about restraint, seriousness, and the ability to create space for others. In a world increasingly shaped by self-promotion, that model of leadership is not old-fashioned. It is necessary. We do not only need louder champions. We also need people who can act without vanity and guide, without turning everything into a performance of the self. Another reason we need to rethink our assumptions is that solitude is not the enemy of connection. Often it is the source of originality. So many ideas that later changed the world began not in a committee room, but in private concentration. Solitude allows people to test thoughts before they are influenced by the mood, status, or confidence of the group. In groups, we are often more suggestible than we realize. We follow the most fluent speaker. We are affected by status, tone, and social pressure. We adopt opinions more quickly than we notice. This does not mean collaboration is worthless. It means collaboration works best when it is built on independent thinking. The strongest teams are not those in which everyone speaks constantly from the start. They are those in which individuals first have room to form ideas, challenge assumptions, and clarify what they actually think. Then they come together and refine those ideas collectively. If we skip that first stage, group work can become a process of imitation rather than insight. For some people, solitude is not a luxury. It is the condition under which they can hear themselves think. And if we deny people that space, we may get more activity, but not necessarily more wisdom. Part of the problem is cultural. Modern life often treats personality as performance. We admire charisma, speed, confidence, and ease with strangers. We teach people to market themselves, to appear dynamic, to fill pauses, and to be instantly impressive. None of these qualities is inherently bad. Social skills matter. Communication matters. Warmth matters. But when these traits become the main standard by which we assess value, we narrow our idea of what a capable human being looks like. We begin to overlook the person who works carefully, listens deeply, or needs time before offering a conclusion. We confuse polish with substance. We overlook the possibility that the most useful person in the room may not be the one speaking most easily. The bias runs deep because it is built into habits, expectations, and symbols of success. Even many quiet people internalize it. They learn to perform extroversion in order to survive or advance. Sometimes that is necessary, and sometimes it can even be empowering. But there's a cost when people live too long in contradiction with their own temperament. They become exhausted, self-doubting, and disconnected from the conditions under which they do their best work. A society that values only one style wastes enormous human potential. What would a better balance look like? It would not mean dividing people into camps or pretending that extroverts and introverts live in separate worlds. Most people are more flexible than labels suggest, and context matters enormously. A quiet person can love meaningful conversation, public teaching, or collective purpose. An outgoing person can also need privacy, reflection, and time alone. The goal is not to rank one temperament above another, but to stop pretending that one is always ideal. We need environments with both interaction and retreat, collaboration and autonomy, visibility and privacy. In schools, that means teaching children how to discuss ideas together, but also how to think independently. In workplaces, it means recognizing that not all productive work is observable in real time. In leadership, it means rewarding sound judgment, not just confident delivery. In families, it means understanding that a child who seeks quiet may not be unhappy. They may simply be restoring themselves. And in our own lives, it means asking a more honest question. Under what conditions do I actually think, create, and care best? Not under what conditions do I appear most impressive, but under what conditions do I become most fully myself and most useful to others. I think many people carry something private inside them that they have learned to hide. It may be a love of books, a fascination with ideas, a habit of deep observation, a preference for intimacy over crowds, or simply a quieter way of moving through the world. Too often, they hide it because they fear it will be dismissed as weakness. But what they carry may be exactly what others need. The person who notices what everyone else misses. The one who asks the careful question. The one who prepares thoroughly, listens patiently, and speaks with purpose. The one who does not rush to judgment. The one who creates beauty, insight, or stability without demanding recognition at every step. We should not ask such people to become louder in order to become legitimate. We should ask how to build a world in which their gifts can be seen clearly. Of course, growth matters. Quiet people may need courage to speak. Outgoing people may need discipline to listen. We all need to stretch beyond habit at times. But growth should not mean self-erasure. It should mean expanding from a secure sense of who we are, not abandoning it. The healthiest confidence is not imitation. It is congruence between temperament and action. So, I want to end with a simple appeal. Let us stop treating quietness as a problem in need of correction. Let us make more room in our institutions, relationships, and imaginations for people who do not announce themselves immediately. Let us recognize that some of the most important contributions come from those who think deeply before they speak, who require solitude to create, and who lead without theatrics. If you are someone who gains strength from activity and company, bring that gift generously. The world needs energy, warmth, and momentum. But also leave room for those whose strengths emerge more slowly and more privately. And if you are someone who has often felt pressure to be louder, faster, or more socially effortless than you really are, I hope you will stop apologizing for the shape of your mind. Protect the conditions that help you think. Value the pace that lets you see clearly. Share what you carry, even if softly. Because the world does not only need boldness. It also needs depth, care, attention, and quiet conviction. It needs people who can stand apart long enough to see differently and who can return with something worth saying.